People are so
women
hard
hate
on
women.
Lena Dunham. I gotta say, I'm not a Lena Dunham fan.
No,
but sometimes I'm like, guys, would you relax?
Yeah.
I
don't know why.
It's also like the Wall Street Journal did an article where it was like Lena Dunham just wants to be left alone. An interview with Lena Dunham and it was just like, it's those kinds of things where you're like, are you? That feels like you're asking for a little bit of hate.
I know it's tough,
but sorry, you did text me. We're not going to have Crystal on the pod. I don't care.
Okay.
So. Welcome to the downside. My name is.
I always know. I can see it in your eyes.
Damn it! You know,
it's like it's an acting tell. I can tell.
It's
like,
horrible.
I want you to really sell it someday where I don't know what's gonna come. But
well, I also did it right at the beginning.
Okay, yeah.
God damn it! Is him and Tova, my girlfriend? She'll say you're doing bit eyes, and that's what she means. She can
This
tell.
is in the bedroom. This is.
Yeah. Sometimes.
Should I cut my phone off? Jared from Subway is calling from prison. He wants to just see how I'm doing.
We tried to get him on. Can you tell him what's going on? We've emailed him twice.
He gets a call.
Is he still in prison?
I think so.
Oh yeah,
probably.
He
like
has
a long
to be.
Time.
Yeah,
it's like
all the time.
Yeah, most. Of the
I don't
time.
think you
most
get
of
to come.
Rest of his time.
He's part-time prison.
I cannot wait till we have a producer. I could be like, hey, so when does Jerry get out of prison? And then they come back.
14 years.
So I did want to. Well, we're very excited. We'll get to you in a second. But
I'm Zach Zimmerman. Follow me at ZZ across all platforms.
We have Zach Zimmerman. I did want to say my producer noted something very interesting. She emailed you to confirm this podcast, and you said confirmed. Can't wait. And pretty shortly after that, you tweeted. Can't wait equals I don't want to do this. This is the downside.
You're listening to The Downside.
The Downside.
With Gianmarco Soresi.
Okay, how many minutes between the email and the tweet?
Let's see, because Paige caught it. Not Paige caught it. Paige texted it to me.
I try to add
8:43 a.m. The tweet was 11:42 a.m.
Okay.
But Zach's a slow writer.
So he could have said yes to a lot of things in that 3-hour period.
There's more. I try to add a day delay to most things. If I hooked up with someone and then I'm gonna make a joke about it, I add a little.
I do that for shows. Like whenever somebody's going on in a show that I really don't like, I'll write a tweet and I just do it a week later. Sometimes I even put it in my calendar tweet
that way
this
they
thing.
don't know.
Yeah,
that's clearly about a week from now. I'll be like, ugh, rough podcast recording today.
Yeah. I think it's the commute. I think anything that requires me to leave my home, I don't want to do.
Mm-hmm.
The day of.
Sure.
A week ago, I'm excited. Then when it becomes a real plan, you have to arrive at a place in time and space.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I hate it.
Well, thank you for being here nonetheless. Thank you for getting your shit togetger.
Russell, rainy day,
Are you recording? You're recording?
I know. I walked in the rain for this.
I went away for 2.5 weeks. I came back. We skipped fall. It's fucking freezing.
It's cold.
I had a tank top on too. I bought all these new tank tops. They were on sale. I was in Cleveland, and then I got back here, and I was like, oh, that's why they were on sale, because I will not be wearing them for 6 months.
Yeah.
I was wearing a tank top. I was going to wear it for the pod, but then I was teaching these high schoolers from New Jersey.
Why?
They reached out. They wanted. It was like a stand-up comedy club at their high school, and they paid $100, and they wanted a little seminar over Zoom.
For how long?
It was just 30 minutes.
Did you have to listen to their jokes?
No, I just talked to them.
Oh, that's
I hopefully
good.
talked
That's
out some
your
of them about a stand-up
specialty.
comedy. Yes.
Not listening.
What was your one insight? Your one big one?
Just that no one likes crowd work. So no, I'm just joking, Zach.
Okay.
That's a joke.
That's caused some trouble in my friendship.
With who?
Not trouble, but I feel like a close friend tweeted against crowd work, and I love crowd work, and I think it's important and valuable.
Now, without worrying about either one of our feelings, tell me your true Russell take on crowd work in general.
I think the best kind of crowd work is worked in around great sets where the set doesn't rely on the crowd work, but it is worked in naturally a few times a set. I feel like my thing is the only time I don't like it is if I feel like we're waiting for you to start at some point. Like if we're watching it and I'm like, no, but start now. Like it feels like sometimes it feels like it starts with crowd work and they're fishing to get a big thing out of it, and the fishing experiment is taking too long. It's not, the payoff's not happening yet.
That's fair.
And
That's fair.
they're scared to bail on crowd work because they started it. And I'm like, we need to start the show
Sure.
at some point, you know, like, so I'm fine with it, like sprinkled in and used for sure. I just don't like it when it feels like it's preventing us from getting to the material.
Now let me, because I want to give, because our audiences love when we just dive deep into stand-up comedy.
Discourse.
Deep into it. So obviously there's a problem with crowd work right now, only because algorithms, all this social media stuff is incentivizing comedians to do crowd work because you can only have so much really fine-tuned material.
Yeah.
But with crowd work, you can come up with unique experiences, and it's created, and you know, social media is paying some people.
Yeah.
So comedians, sometimes it feels like there's not only an overabundance of crowd work, but sometimes it feels like, I think, the crowd work and getting the clip is the primary, and the live show has become secondary.
Okay.
No, I feel
And
that.
we've just been inundated with a lot of on social media, at least every comic is doing crowd work to them, and some releasing some that feels like you were like, what's your name? What'd you say, Kyle? And they're like, no, Keenan, and that's the clip.
Yeah.
And it's like, comedian
Yeah.
destroys guy's name.
Oh yeah. That's
I love that clip though.
And then the last
So
thing
good,
I'll say, because
Keenan.
I do crowd work more in my headlining sets. My only complaint about it, and then you can challenge me, is that I think sometimes when it's a regular showcase show, that I think the host can do a lot of crowd work. And then when I was a host, I always would do the crowd work. And then at the end of it, I would always get back to jokes because I wanted to take the hit. I didn't want to. I thought it was my responsibility to take the hit, to be like, okay, guys, we're going to have jokes tonight. So get ready for that. Because sometimes an audience, if a host just does crowd work, and I feel this way sometimes if someone in a showcase just does crowd work, then a comic goes up to do a more traditional set, and they look like they're corny as fuck. It's the same way I've done a showcase show where, you know, the comedian before me left the stage and tickled the audience and was blah, 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 and all sorts of things, and then I go up there and I'm on the stage like a fucking loser, and it's like, again, that comic killed, and some people loved it. Some people were like, what the fuck's going on? But for the other comic on the stage, it's like, oh, I feel like the structure has been destroyed in a way where I'm coming off as corny, and you can win them back, and it's not your responsibility to make the show good for everyone else. You're all getting paid the same amount. But it made the audience think that it was at something else, the same way that I think if I started singing a song or playing piano and had the audience sing along karaoke style, that I've changed the chemistry of what the show is. That might make it difficult to get back to stand-up comedy. That's my thoughts.
I think you're talented enough to be able to pivot or to come up and not go into a hard joke instantly.
Sure, but I think that's why, I think that's one of the reasons people who feel strongly
think
feel
it's
strongly
torpedoing the show for other people.
But now it feels like you've fallen in love more recently with crowd work.
I've always I have an improv background from like Chicago and stuff, and I feel most in my flow state when I am like reacting honestly and earnestly in the moment. I'd rarely go on stage like I'm going to do crowd work in a set, other than I've done a show, it's an hour of crowd work. But when something catches my ear, it might be more interesting than my material. When an audience member's like coming out to their friend, or someone has a big reaction to something, like I like chasing that, and it's shiny and interesting to me for a short while.
I think it's funny that you said an audience member coming out to their friend, as if that's like a kind of common occurrence. Like,
but it was a
seen the
specific
clip.
one.
Yeah, I've seen that,
yeah.
And I'm like, another comic might have been like, "Shut up, you're dumb," and then
No,
gone on
but
to
that's
like,
and
then I went to the store. Like, but I feel nice that I'm able. Sometimes I think it's like, oh, do I like doubt myself or not think my story or what I have to say is interesting enough that I'm drawn to other people? What do you have to say? But I do just like genuinely like talking to people. Or
I think you can always tell. I think like the when it's done in person, and also the clips. I feel like the clips, like I've seen that clip. It's a really funny clip. It's like definitely you should, you know. I feel like I know what you're saying too, though, where you're like, I don't know if this was an interesting thing to share. That I've seen people share certain instances.
I just also, I've seen, I once did a show I remember it was interesting because I was like, it was early. I was featuring, which I never would do again. And the headliner was crushing, and he was doing like, it was a country club, and it was a stuffy country club, but he was like taking people's shoes, using them as phones. I mean, real high level stuff.
Yeah.
And I remember he was killing way harder than I was. But I remember when I was leaving, like there were these two audience members, some guy was like, God, I wish he just fucking would tell some jokes. And I do think there's sometimes with some crowd work where it can be killing, but there's some people in the audience that did want some jokes who are like kind of annoyed.
I think not maybe annoyed. I think for me, I'm a paranoid person. I'm nervous it's gonna switch to making fun of me. As
you
an
might
audience
come
when
member.
you're in the audience.
You might come out and go like,
Yeah.
I didn't want to come out.
Married.
Maybe that's what all those comics back at LOL, who they'd always be like, you two gay? They were just trying to have a beautiful moment, actually.
No, I remember when I was really young, though. I was in high school and I went to a comedy show in my like local area in Binghamton, New York, and like the comic was a fat guy, and he's like, fat boy knows what I'm talking about, and he kept calling me fat boy, and it was like one of those things where I was like, you're in high school, so you're not exactly ready to have that sort of like attention for being fat. And it was just like, ever since then, it's like that kind of thing in my head of like, I get nervous when crowd work starts happening. I'm like, what's gonna, like, because sometimes, it's like,
that video would be inspiring, though. High schooler accepts that he's fat.
Bravely comes out.
But he was saying things that didn't even matter to fat people. He'd just be like, fat boy knows. Like literally, it was just like him being like, him talking about like his adult as like a 45-year-old man. I was like 16. He's like, fat boy knows what I'm talking about. I'm like,
my wife's a bitch. Fat boy knows what I'm talking about.
I mean, that's kind of funny.
Yeah.
There is a problematic history of crowd work, I think, that is more roasty and like lowest common denominator.
I say bitch a lot.
Yeah.
And that comes from LOL. Like, I do a lot of like, bitch.
To an audience member? Or
yeah.
Oh.
Bitch.
How do you say it? Oh, you say it like that.
Bitch.
You're not like, you're a fucking
I
bitch.
find-
You're a fucking bitch. There's always like, I do a lot of, it's very interesting because I do a lot of like, you get it once a show, but like, shut the fuck up. And like sometimes it'll kill, but sometimes if I'm like annoyed, sometimes it had that, there's that
It's a
edge where
little
I'm like,
too
just
hard.
shut the
It's a
fuck
little too
up. And the audience goes like, whoa.
I've had the exact thing happen. Someone was talking the first 2 minutes, like quiet whisper over there, and I'm just going along. And eventually I'm like, can you shut the fuck up? Audience turns on me. They're like, why was Zach mean?
Amazing.
He's so nice.
Yeah.
I've had this happen before, and I dig for this now with the shows that I do at Sesh, The Silver Lining. Check it out. It's a sister show of this podcast.
Jesus Christ.
Okay.
Shut
But
the fuck up.
I say like, who's a fucked up relationship with their dad? Like right now I'm trying to do crowd work that explores like really family.
Oh,
and fucking
smart.
family.
Yeah.
But as it happened last night,
Oh God.
someone, they said their dad's a dick. I'm like, are they married? And then they go, my mom's dead. And the audience goes like, whoa. And I go like, no, let's talk. And I think I'll be able to get through the other side. And sometimes you can't. And it was like,
because people aren't thinking of, will this be a good bit for you? They're like, I'm gonna be fully honest.
well,
Like,
there's
you're
a famous bit. Have you seen Greg Stone? He was at the cellar and he did one where he found out that the woman's father had murdered the mom and then killed himself.
Yes.
And like the set was more him just being like, but it was like he did it perfectly. But that's that's the fantasy.
Yeah,
I see someone has a dead parent and I'm like, viral clip right here. Here we go.
Oh, interesting.
And no, I mean I try to explore it.
Right.
And I think the only way to explore things is to like get into the details. And like her story was something about like her dad sucked because she had to pick up her mom's death certificate. And I think I was like, death certificate? What's that for?
Just mail it.
And she was like, for insurance purposes.
Oh.
And I was like,
fun.
and man, I think I'm probably decent enough that the audience doesn't think that I like truly just fucked it up. But in my head, I'm like, man, I did not find anything there. I didn't find anything. And I did the lamest thing. I'm like, oh, I'm going to come back to you. And then I never came back to her.
I think, my theory of stand-up is
Like her
people are
mom.
watching the comedian trying to make something funny is funny, or you struggling is funny. If we like you,
Yes.
like maybe not in the room that night because they were feeling hurt. Their feeling for her was darker than their like love of you, but outside of it, that's hilarious. Like the comedian, whether we're all in this together, we're all trying to find the laugh together, and when it fails, we all kind of fail. Or you're seeing how do you respond to failure?
Yeah.
That's what's funny. When the joke bombs, I think that's more interesting.
I think it's like, as a comedian, like for some people, death is a real like
Yeah.
nose. It's just like
Audiences hate it. It's death and breakups. I feel like there's too much empathy, and then people can't
breakups.
laugh
Yeah.
when it feels too raw.
Yeah. For those listening, just real quick, I want to just plug that we do have a new Downside live episodes every Tuesday, 4 to 5 p.m. on the new Amazon's AMP app, link in bio. And if you can't listen to it live, we have a Patreon, patreon.com/downside. You can get all the episodes for just $5 a month. Old bonus episodes too. We might have to reschedule tomorrow, so I'll tell you after the show.
How do you vet guests for the live show? Why did I
over
not
the
make
phone.
the cut?
Trust me,
Trust
this
me.
is
You won't put me live?
This is the better.
Well, for him,
this
this
is-
would be better. The other one would be better because he didn't have to come.
I could be naked
That
on
is
the
true.
other one.
Yeah.
But the problem is you see the eyeball or the ear or whatever in the corner letting you know how many people are listening. And you're like, oh my God, 4 people are listening to this interview with Dan Savage. Great work, Jeff Bezos. I was terrified. I prayed. I was like, I'm sure he knew. But it's amazing. If I was Dan Savage, I would have been like, oh, I'm going to hang up
changed
now.
it. I can't see it anymore.
Oh, you can't see it anymore.
No, they
Maybe it's
changed
just
it.
me.
Oh, that's
That's
sad.
smart.
They've changed it as a viewer. You
That's
can't
like when they
see
got
it.
rid of the Instagram likes, so you could just be like, oh, maybe a
oh,
million
oh,
likes on this
lots of
picture.
people are doing this. Yeah.
I did want to share one story, and then I want to hear about your life, or you can do crowd work with us and just ask us questions.
Hey, shut the fuck up.
I had a thing, and I've been, so I was on the road, and I think my girlfriend has a paranoia of like especially with Mulaney cheating and Adam Levine cheating and the Try guy.
Yeah,
cheating.
I've always compared you to Adam Levine.
Now I know that's a joke. I know that's a joke, and it's funny to me too. But to her, it's not. To her, it is a trend. It is a new trend of men cheating
On tour.
on tour. A new trend every time.
Men.
Everyone's always shocked. Everyone's shocked that men cheat. And I got a text. I was in an Uber. I got a text from her, and it was a picture of red panties, and she said, want to explain what this is? And like, not even with a sense of like, oh, what's this? As if she found the smoking gun. As if she found a picture of me with the panties on my
Listen,
head.
I mean, it's not a smoking gun. It's a gun held up.
It is a gun.
I mean, did you?
And they were see-through.
Oh.
And they were like,
And red?
And red, yeah. Maybe they
What
used to be
size-
white, and
what
she was on
size?
her period.
We took big. We took normal size. Like what do we?
They were small.
Petite. like for a Barbie doll, small, or for
No. An adult
an
woman's
adult woman
panties.
Okay.
panties.
Was there any part of you that thought maybe they belonged to someone that you knew at some point?
Okay, so here's the only thought that I had in my head is that I had in the past when I lived in Harlem and I was a single bachelor that sometimes
Collected
women
panties.
sometimes women
I was
like
a
a
panty collector.
surprising
Yes,
amount
yes.
of women surprising, like it was like 4 left
Yes.
their panties.
It happens.
And I didn't know. I always was confused by it. I didn't know if it was like a Cinderella thing. I like bring it around Bushwick, find the matching smell.
Mm-hmm.
But here's the weird part for me. I'm not into wearing panties. I'm not into like jerking off with panties. That's not my thing.
Did any part of you think maybe you would just say that you were to like be like I wear them or
What, like right now? Just like to lie?
no to her like
In
when
this-
she
yeah,
when you were like
when you're being
'cause
confronted.
Oh, sure.
as an explanation.
Well, so when I first moved here, the thing is I held on to these panties. It felt they were the nicest thing I owned. It was hard to imagine throwing them away. So they literally made the move. I had movers who moved the panties from one location to
Yeah.
another location. I don't know
Well,
what
they're
I'm gonna
very
do with
light.
these panties.
They don't really.
Yeah.
You didn't pay a lot extra for that.
And they were probably like mixed in with like the kitchenware and stuff,
Right.
just in a box. And
What?
so when Tova and I like got closer, and eventually when she moved in, or she like helped me like reorganize and Marie Kondo the place, she found these panties, and I had some splaining to do. But I said like
Those are the Harlem panties.
these are the Harlem
I've had them
panties.
for
This was a
ages. Yeah.
They're the nicest thing I own.
Yeah.
so I threw them away. I threw them away.
Did you?
I did.
You
I did. But
did she watch you do it?
She watched. She burned them. We did a whole Jewish ritual, and there's also, no one's ever noticed it, but there's a framed picture up there, and there's a pair of her panties in that framed thing up there, but you can't see it and it was a joke to her, like, look, I'm framing your panties now.
Oh, okay.
And congrats, my girlfriend signed you as a manager. So I got this text, and my first thought. First, I had no idea. I mean, truly, I was like, I had no idea what was going on. I've been on the road for 2 weeks.
Yep.
And I mean, I haven't cheated on her for like months. And my first thought was, oh my, maybe there was one more pair left over from this long. She's moved in a while ago, so I had no idea. But then I assumed that we do our laundry, we send it out, it gets brought back, and I've probably lost 2 shirts that way. Once I got a baby sock, which, funnily enough, I held onto the baby sock because I thought it was so cute.
For the same
but
reason.
Just random clothes.
Because you do jack off with baby
you're a
socks.
collector.
You don't
You're
jack
a
off
collector
with
of
adult women's
disgusting
things.
So
Wait, I have a
Yeah.
technical question. Where did she find these in your apartment? Like, where were they?
So she got
They
them.
were in the laundry.
So this is where it goes further. So as I get the details, the more I'm like, give me a break. So it was in the laundry bag that she had sent out and brought back while I was away. So in her mind, I guess she said women do this kind of thing, like to either, break up the couple I guess they're cheating with, or just like a territorial, like, pissing where you eat or whatever. That so I was like, okay, so you're saying that I slept with some woman in our room, despite the fact that you're fucking Sherlock Holmes. That's what I chose. Our room. I'm on the road half of the year. I chose our room instead of
she knows
the
your history
Marriott
of
Hotel.
collecting panties, and you could have hooked up on the road and brought those panties back in a thing, and then accidentally got them in your laundry for when you sent out for laundry.
Sure.
I'm just,
Sure. And her mind, that, or the woman as she left, she was like, I know I'm going to fuck up. I'm going to throw it in the laundry. And somehow I didn't see it. So I'm like talking to her, and we're like talking through this. And I'm like, this is impossible. I promise. And suddenly the Uber driver goes, hey, I'm sorry to interrupt, but that does happen sometimes. That does happen sometimes. I've had it happen like 3 times to me.
Where a woman will leave them behind?
No, where the laundry comes back.
they just
and
you get some clothes.
Yes, that sounds so common.
And he said panties specifically. And so, that really clears it up for Tova's like, okay, now we're good. The Uber driver agreed with you.
The person you're about to tip.
The person I'm about to tip.
Trust
He's
you.
winking at me like, we got each other. I need you to
Don't
answer the
let
phone
that
for me
happen.
after this. But ultimately, it got settled. I tricked her, and when we finished the call, the Uber driver I thanked him. I said that was nice.
Yeah.
It's very funny because like I've gotten to this point where I've had conversations with Uber people in the front. Where
Uber people.
Uber
Human
people.
being that is driving you. Okay, yeah.
But like it is the things I've said on the phone or with someone in the back of an Uber. Like very intimate details where I'm like, this person's just hearing it.
Yeah.
And he heard the whole phone call, and I said thank you to him, and he said, yeah, it's happened to me 3 times. They were mostly granny panties for some reason. And then he said to me, I'm a relationship guy, and I think if you're going to fight, you should be fighting about, the real problems, not the made up ones.
He
And I was
sounds
like,
like
thank
a
you.
cheater.
Oh.
No.
Sounds like a cheater. Yeah. I'm a relationship. I'm a wife guy.
I'm a wife guy. I'm a try guy.
It was one of the try guys. That's his new job. So it was all settled, but it was.
What'd she do with the panties?
I don't know if we threw them away or not, or they were still here.
No one knew they were in a box.
This
somewhere
also
with-
feels like a thing someone could do to tease out the truth. Like,
What?
can you explain these?
Sure.
Just
well,
are completely random.
when my mom found out that my dad was cheating on her, she heard from a friend that like they had seen my dad at a restaurant with someone, and my mom said to my dad, "You're cheating on me." He said, "No." She said, "I saw you," and he said, "I'll be right home." And she was calling his bluff.
Yeah.
Called his bluff.
Interesting.
And my dad, like a fucking fool,
Cheating.
He didn't have an Uber driver to be like,
No.
people have dinner with women at restaurants.
Cheating is genetic, so Tova's right to be afraid, I think, actually.
Yeah, my dad and I are very
Similar.
No, we're very different in that. Like my uncle, his brother, once said to me, he's like, your dad is a. This is so weird. Your dad is he's like a sexual person. You're not like that.
And your uncle said this to you?
Yeah.
How old are you?
Russell knows a detail that I can't share on the pod. I'll tell you off. Yeah, it was like recent. I think it was like at my a funeral of one of my grandparents.
A funeral. Your
dad's a sexual guy.
It was as you were
being.
like laying over your grandma saying goodbye.
No, I honestly think I'm far too neurotic for lying. I think it eats at me.
You have a tell. The bit eyes.
I have the bit eyes. That's why I'll never be an actor professionally. But I think lies eat away at me. I hate them. I hate them.
Yeah.
Now you lie.
You're a
You're a
liar.
good liar. I mean,
Really?
no.
Have you ever cheated on your wife?
No, not yet.
Okay.
I'm not
good.
planning on it. Yeah.
Aw.
No, who's planning on it?
Yeah.
It's the thing where they're like,
Yes.
people who murder people, they didn't know they were going to murder someone. One day they
Some
just
of them do. Some of them are premeditated.
But
Crime of
some of them, they
passion.
just one day they look over that body, and they're like, I got to dispose of this. I'll keep the red panties, but I got to get rid of the body.
It would be so stressful if I murdered someone. I think that would be.
Don't be such a neurotic. Get over it. You murdered someone.
No,
It's fine.
I feel like that would be all the things you have to think of to make sure it just feels like it would be very stressful.
You're saying it like we're talking about flying internationally.
Gotta get the charger, the adapter.
So, Zach,
Gianmarco. Russell.
I know you grew up in a religious household, and we do talk about religion a lot in here.
Yeah.
What state do you grow up in? You grew up in
Virginia.
Where in Virginia?
Roanoke.
How far was that from Richmond? I was just in Richmond.
4 hours. We used to drive to Richmond to go to King's Dominion. That's a big theme park right outside of Richmond.
And religious family, correct?
Very.
Still,
Very. Yeah. I still get texts every day.
You post
Every
those
day.
texts. You post those texts.
Before it was a thing. No, yeah. They believe in the Lord.
is it a mass text or is it specifically for you?
Group family.
For the family.
Usually, yeah. The 5 of us. Or the 6 of us.
Do people respond like thumbs up?
Yeah, sometimes I take. My sisters are more like my
Religious?
speed. Older
Oh.
sister's still God. Younger sister's like a little more woke and on my bandwidth.
Were they involved in the church? Were they?
Dad was an assistant pastor for a good while.
So he just likes to make sure that the door is locked for
Make
the
sure
priest.
the door's locked.
Pastor. Not
Yeah,
not
tell us the
Catholic,
difference. Tell us the
right?
difference. So, okay, pastor, this is Protestant,
Protestant, yeah.
Yeah.
Southern
Protestant.
Baptist.
Southern Baptist.
Yeehaw.
And what's the difference between a pastor and a priest?
Priest is Catholic, I think, right?
Okay, priest is Catholic.
Yeah. Catholics are Christians that are going to hell. That's how I keep track of it.
Cool. And then what's a preacher?
Like a pastor.
Okay, a preacher
I think
and a
those are
pastor.
synonyms.
Those are
yeah.
same-
Synonyms.
sim-
Yeah.
Okay, great. So what's an assistant to a pastor? That seems like kind of
Not an assistant to a pastor, an assistant pastor. An associate pastor.
So the
Like a-
pastor's sick.
You don't have a...
Was that what it is?
You do like the Sunday nights.
Sunday night.
You're like
that's
the-
it's like
You're
the
not
opposite, like one
headlining.
day I
You're
hope
like-
I get
yeah.
that 8 a.m. slot. Oh God. But he would lead a service.
Yes, occasionally. And then when you're your own pastor, that's when you have your own congregation, your own church.
And
But he never got there.
did he want to?
I think so, yeah.
Was he?
Wait, was this his main thing or was this like a side
No, it's
hustle?
always a side thing. Or I think when you're the pastor, it's full time.
Yeah.
But yeah, he worked on cars his whole life.
Oh, got it.
Yeah, big mechanic.
what is?
Smelled like oil coming home.
Is that a good smell?
I don't know. It's what deep in my memory. I don't think it's a good smell.
Is he a manly guy?
Yeah.
I see oil. I mean, I think oil.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think he's
Like
pretty
manly.
manly. I think he's manly.
Was he?
Are you hitting on my dad?
Sure.
Tova. Gonna have his oil rags.
You want to know whose panties was? That's where you made the mistake. It was a much older man. Okay, is he a good pastor?
Oh, very good speaker. Yes.
What-
And like great cadence and pause. Very comfortable with.
Would he quote the Bible, or was it mostly crowd work?
Quote the Bible.
What kind is it? Funny? Is it inspirational? Like how does I don't go to these things.
A good. It is probably where some formative like comedy
course.
influences
Yeah.
happen because you
They structure it.
Yeah, there's a structure. There's usually a lesson like, okay, today we're talking about jealousy, and here's some like stories from the Bible that talk about jealousy. Here's a story from my life. Here's a joke, literally,
Yep.
and it all kind of builds to a come to Jesus, like accept Jesus as your savior speech for anyone who hasn't at the end.
Is that
So
always
there's like a narrative?
Is it
arc.
always the closer? Is it always to bring
Yeah,
it back to
yeah,
Jesus?
Yeah,
Uh,
just in case.
was he really like writing? Is he like every Saturday like writing like, oh, what's the story I'm going to tell? Or is he just kind of like, oh, this happened to me. Someone, fixed the car faster than me, and I'll talk about that.
Yeah.
And I'll riff it.
He didn't give a ton of sermon. I don't have formative like him giving sermon memories.
Yeah.
I know his testimony forward and backwards, which is like your conversion story.
Can you tell?
I was this, then I got saved, and now I'm better.
How was he
vibes.
saved?
Oh man, that's part of what fucked me up so much. He like heard the voice of God at 13, and like I then as a kid was like, okay,
Waiting.
where's my voice? Yeah.
Well, I always found it interesting. C.S. Lewis,
Yeah.
who I think I was interested in C.S. Lewis when I was going through like a real existentialist college phase, where C.S. Lewis like he was very Christian. If you went
Yep.
deeper, like he would, talk, when people are talking about how, the three spirits can be one or whatever.
The Trinity,
The
yeah.
Trinity can be one thing. It's like, that's where I'm like, it feels like you're theorizing about Dungeons and Dragons.
Yep,
suddenly.
yep.
But C.S. Lewis also had like larger things about the existence of God that felt
yeah.
very smart and interesting. But he was an atheist until he was like 30, I think.
Oh really?
Or there's a guy who runs Francis Ellis, I think his name is. He runs the big health government center in DC, and he's like a biologist who believes in evolution. So I was looking for religious people who were scientific, and that was going to be like my like,
Yep,
oh, they're
yep.
smart,
Yep.
they're not idiots, and they
Right, right,
believe in
right.
God. Thus, ergo, I can believe in God. But he talked about like he was on a hike one day at 30, 33, and he came across 3 streams, and he saw the Father, Son, Holy Ghost, and it became one. And I wanted that moment.
Yep.
And I'm 34 now.
I don't want that.
You don't want to be walking one day?
No, think how much more your time you're gonna have to like. You're gonna start going to church. You have to like start like, you know what I mean. You're gonna have to carve out a whole new thing for yourself. You know.
I
Don't
could
you
make a
think?
lot of money
Don't
on the
you
Christian
think?
circuit.
If you really
Oh,
heard
yeah.
the voice of God, don't you think you would then be like, you'd have to change your life a lot?
What if I heard the voice of God and I was like, it was kind of annoying. It was kind of nasally.
Yeah.
Gianmarco.
What did your dad, did he go into details of what he meant when he said that? He heard the voice of God.
Yes. The voice said, Jesus, Jesus, you need this, you need this. He was at like a summer camp.
It rhymed?
It
rhymed? Gee, was it a rap?
Well, he
Was there
didn't say it like
beatboxing
that.
in the
Jesus,
background?
Jesus,
It doesn't
Jesus,
rhyme.
You need this. He wasn't saying it like
Jesus,
that.
Wait,
Jesus,
I'm like
you need this, you need
anxious
this.
thinking about maybe there's a future conversion experience for me. That's horrifying, actually. That like
Yeah,
even
that you-
now we're all kind of one lightning bolt away. If your ceiling opened up right now and someone was like Gianmarco, like you would change your whole life probably, right?
Yeah, exactly.
You're correct. Yes, I will give that to you guys. If the ceiling
Doesn't that make
opened
you
up
nervous?
and
Isn't
a
that-
voice said Gianmarco,
Yes.
I'd change a couple things about my life.
But doesn't
That's
that,
a
Maybe
fair
stop
point.
cheating. Maybe
but you're
burn the
saying-
panties on
you're
your
saying
wall.
You want that? You want that?
Wanted in college, right?
I want a voice to come out and say, hey, big fan of your work.
Why do you need him?
Got a tag idea for you, bud.
You're just,
Well, because I want them to say, hey, just so you know, and I'm sure you want this too. This is where I'm confused. You don't want this. The voice to be like, hey, just so you know, when you die, you still get to kind of exist in a fun way.
Okay.
And don't worry, it's all a fun game, and you'll never be nothingness.
Okay.
Peace. And that's
That
all I
sounds
want.
nice.
Okay,
That
that does
sounds
sound nice.
nice.
That does sound nice. And
does
actually,
sound nice.
But I don't think I'd change my life with that. I think, but if it was just like Jesus, 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 you need this, I would be like, I guess like that. If I'm really feeling like the ceiling's opening up and I'm hearing that and like it feels real,
Yep.
that's more confusing to me. You know,
Sure.
because the other thing is like I don't have to go to church. It just feels like it's fine. Like I can just live my life nicely and it'll be nice. But I think the other thing feels scary because it's like
You don't want any doubt.
to have to get into
Yes.
like church at
I would
30
I would like it more if they came down and like Hasidic Judaism is the way, and you
Oh, yeah.
had to go
Yeah,
full on
yeah,
Wow.
yeah.
Hasidic
Okay.
Judaism.
Yeah.
So, but your father, was he, you said he was lost and then saved. He was 13. Did he grow up in a religious family?
No, so that's what not shattered, but strained his relationships with other family members. Oh. He lost his father too, which I think is part of the searching for meaning or being
When did
open
his
to
father
community.
die? How old was he?
I think he was right. It was like that year, so maybe 12 or 13.
What happened?
Heart attack working on the railroad.
Jesus Christ. He must have been young. 50s.
Yeah, I know. Both my grandfathers died in their 50s, so, I'm
glad we got you
living
here
on
sooner
borrowed
than
time.
later.
I know. I can't do tomorrow. I'll tell you why. I'm dying.
So his dad dies. He's emotional.
Yep.
He's 13. Does he have siblings?
Older sister.
Older
yeah.
sister.
And then he has this big experience, comes home, tries to convert everybody, gets real involved in the church, marries young.
And his parents were not, his mom was not like
No,
into the church at all?
No.
Wow.
God, that's honestly my biggest fear of having a kid. Is a 13-year-old.
Oh, yeah, to come home.
Like, mom.
To have a a Jesus freak, it can
oh,
happen.
Yeah.
That's honestly, I never even
Because you don't
thought
want to be
about
mean.
that.
You're like, oh, stop.
But really,
Like,
I know.
Be like, let's get you into Dragon Ball Z.
Okay.
Anything. So he had this moment, and did he tell you? Obviously, he did sermons about. Did he ever like sit down with you and be like with vulnerability and say like, you don't understand. I heard this thing.
Yeah.
And I know it's
Every night. It felt like every night. This is an essay in the book.
Oh,
It's
yeah?
very like, it's called testimony. I know it. Yeah. He would tell me it over dinner every night. And I would be in constant fear I was going to hell because I didn't hear a voice. I would pray this prayer over and over and over again.
What did he tell you about hell? Like, what did you think of hell when you were young?
He would say, there is the weeping and the gnashing of teeth. And then he would act it out
Can you show me what
at
that
the
looks
dinner
like?
table. Yeah.
Oh my
He
God,
would
I'm
say,
so nervous.
I think it has to be funny. I'm going to try to sell it.
Okay.
Do I have any to tell? I mean, it'd be like pain. Like,
Let's,
like
That's what we're doing in hell? Or that's
because we're suffering so
speak
much.
for yourself. I'm going back to church after this interview.
Gianmarco.
Did you ever wait? I did wait.
No, please.
Did you
I didn't
ever
laugh.
Did you ever
Or
Russell, let me
question it.
just say, there is a part of you, and it's a small part,
Yeah.
that is trying to prepare yourself for hell, possibly. Like right now, you want to be like, what might it be like? Can I prepare for
Yeah,
it?
no. But did you ever say to your dad like, did you ever have a second conversation with God? Like, because I feel
Oh,
like
yes,
from
yes.
13 to
Yeah.
later on, I'd be like, what has he popped in lately?
He
like,
fell into a little depression in his 30s
Oh,
because
'cause
he
he
was kind
didn't
of like,
hear.
you're not going to get it again. Yeah. Like, can you lose your salvation? Is it like a sure thing?
Yeah.
And then it's very important that happened to him. Like
Yeah.
everything hinges on that. So it's impervious to like questioning.
wow.
And it never came back. It never came back a
No,
couple years ago and
no,
said, "Don't get
no.
the vaccine." So as a kid, that would have fucked me up. I've talked about it before. I said
Yeah.
like if I was already scared enough of death, if I believed in the possibility of hell, like with the kind of assuredness you can when you're younger, it would have terrified me.
It's bad. Yeah.
Were you praying, saying, "God, please talk to me, please"?
Yes.
Just one Jesus would do.
Yes.
And how did you get out of it? How did you grow out of it? Where did your turning point come?
Well, Gianmarco, doing crowd work with an audience member. I hate to report that my friend was murdered at Virginia Tech,
Wait,
and I stopped believing in God.
Hold up.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Your friend was murdered?
Yeah.
What happened?
The school shooting, yeah. 2006.
I was in 2006.
Yeah, freshman year of college.
Wow.
Now forgive me because
There was
not
like
to be
20.
crass,
Make it
but
laugh,
size-
funny
there was
man.
There was like 20 something. It was like a big. It was
Yeah,
like one of-
33.
oh,
if you
wow.
count the killer.
Yeah.
Which is like always a question in school shootings. Do you count the killer as a victim?
what year was Columbine?
97 or 97. No, 99.
99. I feel like I
98
remember
maybe.
faint echoes. So Virginia Tech was this at the time like it was.
It was the biggest.
It was a big one.
to date, but it was before it's like cool now. But it was
Yeah.
it was fine.
It was
then.
still like a shock. It was like it was the biggest, and it was
Yeah.
like it wasn't happening with the frequency that it happens now.
So you were a freshman in college.
freshman in college, already starting to like branch out, you know.
Uh-huh.
I'm amongst people who believe differently because I like
Yeah.
went out of state. I'm like here.
Wow.
I talk about it as like I'm still wearing my father's clothes, and they feel like they aren't as comfortable because I'd like talk about Jesus and stuff to people, and it started to feel a little false. I was taking a religion class, reading the Old Testament like as a religious document or historical document, and kind of picking it apart in an interesting way. And then like to get this news was kind of like, oh damn.
Were you on campus when this occurred?
Yeah, my mom called me.
Where? What day of the week was it?
Oh, great question. I believe a Thursday.
And you were where when it happened? What time of the day did it happen?
I got an email, or I saw it in the news on my laptop in a class on the biblical King David. I was in the Judaic Studies Hall taking my course.
And an email popped up on your computer?
I think it was a news alert, like there'd been a shooting at Virginia Tech. And I grew up in Virginia, so I texted, like, I knew probably 5 or 6 people that were there, texted everybody.
Wait, sorry, you were on the campus of Virginia Tech?
No. I went to Princeton. Virginia
you went to
Tech was a
Princeton.
safety school. Well, never mind. That's a good maybe joke, but not really.
That's fun.
Dark,
That'll
but
endear.
it is
That'll
funny.
endear me to everyone.
That's what you get for not getting into Princeton. So you're at Princeton. Where's Princeton? Forgive me.
New Jersey.
In New Jersey. And you get this thing. You hear about the shooting, and you had a friend that you went to high school with.
Yeah. And middle school. We were in the same classes from like 6th grade.
And how, like, are we talking like one of your best friends?
Yeah, probably. We definitely have fallen out of touch since going to college, I think.
Sure.
Like over that 9 months
hard,
or
you're a
whatever.
freshman, so you're like, it's not that much
making
of
new
a-
friends.
yeah.
But we were like always in, it was all, I don't know if y'all were you smart as children? Okay. In the smart kids classes? Or you were like separated?
Yeah, I was in the class. I was at the bottom of those classes.
Got it.
But yes, I was in those
But you
classes.
build a bond with that
Yeah.
crew.
Yeah.
And so we were there. I was valedictorian of my class. He was the salutatorian. And we both gave,
So what?
like number 2.
Number 2.
Oh, you've never heard of that? God,
So
Salutatorian?
did you go to school? Like,
Yeah.
what
we
happened?
didn't have. We had valedictorian, not salutatorian.
There's
You
a
had-
lot-
you
I've
had
never
both.
heard of that.
It's the number
Both.
2.
It's number 2.
We didn't have a number 2, I guess.
I called him number 2.
You didn't have it.
And he called me fatty. Those were our fun back and forth that we had.
Wow.
Or fat boy or whatever.
Fat boy.
Fatty.
Were you fat?
Did you?
I guess. I didn't compared to him, he was a pencil.
Oh, sure.
Wait. Did you?
What is a fatty?
So when you got that notification, did you automatically reach out to your friend?
Texted, called, and then only later that day did my mom. I don't know how she heard, but she called me, and I had like my lunch in my hand, and she was like, "Hen's dead," and I
Oh
like
my
cried a
God.
bunch.
When it happened, did you think, like, when you couldn't reach him, was that your first thought?
No.
It just seemed
You're like, everyone
unfathomable.
must be calling, and
Right.
like,
There's
you know.
thousands of people at that school.
Yeah.
And I'm very just curious because I think like I had a girlfriend in college, and I'm trying to be vague because it's not my story to a certain degree, but her mom called her to let her know that like a neighbor that they'd grown up with had hung herself, and I just will always remember the phone ringing, picking it up, and hearing sobbing. And just like, and I have an anxiety. I tell people all the time, like, I hate getting a text being like, are you free right now? Because immediately I go like, something's bad.
Yeah,
I have anxiety.
yeah,
If
me too.
my siblings call me, I'm always like, is everything okay?
Yeah.
And that's me. But it's also, I think that experience gave me a bit of PTSD. And not in the sense of like pity me, but like I just am an anxious person, and that really made me go like, phone calls can be bad news. My dad tells me all the time about a phone call he found out a friend of his had died in a motorcycle accident, and his mom said to him, "Are you sitting down?" And that was for me. If anyone says that
that's
to
code.
me, I think someone's dead. When your mom told
Which is
you,
what's the worst that could happen? You like slip a little, or with
what?
sitting down.
Oh,
like,
the sitting
do you-
down. I think it's
Or you
more
fall?
just.
I
thought you meant a motorcycle.
Are you so?
Pretty
Oh, like-
dangerous,
no, no.
actually.
You
Zach.
Like,
can
are you sitting
die,
down?
in
People
fact.
die in accidents.
Lose their heads. When you slipped, you slide on the highway. No, I think it's just a degree of like, brace yourself. Something's
Yeah.
coming. Something's coming. It's just you're trying to make it softer. Like I'm trying to think the worst news. I don't think I've had to deliver
Explain this.
anything to I haven't had to explain anything too awful. I remember telling people Philip Seymour Hoffman died. That was my biggest. Have you ever had to deliver real bad news?
When we were first recording this podcast, I got a message basically being like, call me. And it was my friend who had this horrible accident. He had both of his legs amputated. And so it was like, but it was like a friend saying like, call me, there's been an accident kind of thing. And then you're like, and it was at the point where you don't know.
It was that friend who told you?
So not the friend.
A different friend.
I didn't talk to my friend who survived and, and is alive still. But it was like the thing where you don't know all the details yet. Mm-hmm. And there was just a report of like an accident and airlifting and like, sounds like it's really bad and that sort of thing. And then I had to let other friends know.
It's hard to calibrate the amount of worry and anxiety and care.
Yeah, it was.
It's
just
still
a very.
process.
It's such a and then I talked to him within 24 hours, which I was like, that's an insane thing to talk to someone who's just been through that kind of trauma.
You talked to him that day? Wow.
I talked to the next morning. So it happened in like the afternoon, and I talked to him like at like 10 a.m. the next day, and I was like, it was insane. So
were you was it jovial at all, or was there any joking, or was it all kind of
a little bit,
I'm here
but like
for you?
it was. I could tell he was running on adrenaline. Like he was like. It was just like a shock. Someone like in shock, but like very positive seeming, but like he'd just been through an unimaginable kind of accident. So, but yeah, it's. I remember as a kid too. One time my aunt called me to tell my dad that my uncle had died, his brother. And I answered the phone, and she was kind of a dramatic aunt. So I always feel guilty to this day, being like, it's Aunt so and so, like being like, she's crying, like, and then like
crazy
kind
Aunt
of like,
so and so.
I'm like, I don't even think I even said anything, but I like handed the phone off, being like, it's like, and thinking like, oh, something not that big happened, and then it was my uncle had died. So. But yeah, I remember my dad. Like you do remember those phone calls when people get them and you see it. It's like very.
It is those moments though where you
very upsetting. It's like you watching someone's whole world, like collapse.
Those moments. I think it's where I resent my father. Is someone who's always like text me emergency ASAP, and then I'm like calling. He's like, "Are you coming home for Christmas this year?" And I'm like,
no.
And then when something bad is happening, I feel a real rage because I'm like,
boy who cried wolf.
It's a boy who cried wolf.
Yeah.
My dad will not give any preface. Just this past week, he was like, "Mom's sick." And I'm like, with a cold? With the flu? It's fine. It was COVID. It is COVID. But she's fine.
God.
Yeah.
It's the second time.
And she's not vaccinated.
Not vaccinated. Somehow surviving all this stuff.
So when you found out about your friend with the religion, was it like
Not until I saw his body.
it was an
That's
open
when-
casket?
Open, yeah. For some reason, not to be too graphic, but the bullet went through in a way that his face was like preserved. It went through like behind his ear, and so it was open casket, and I saw his body, and I remember it's kind of weird because it wasn't the voice of God, but it was a voice, or it was like a phrase wherever our thoughts come from. But I was like, oh, this is why religion exists, to like make this hurt less. Like religion's to figure out how to grieve a dead person. Yeah, or like this unexplainable tragedy. And so it was just so cleanly like, okay, I don't believe that anymore.
Yeah.
I didn't want to like my parent. He's in hell according to my parents' worldview. So I was like,
Because
oh, this
he
is dumb. Wasn't saved. An atheist, I think.
Wow.
Saved.
That's brutal. And after that, you felt like, I mean, it really was like that deep, like,
I think so,
I'm done talking about Jesus.
Yeah. And I still have to unlearn. I mean, therapy's helped me like unlearn the fear just like of hell. And it still exists.
I feel so fortunate. That's such you talk to so many people that like, you underestimate how real that feels to so many people. Like to never have had hell feel real is like a blessing.
Yes.
But like, do you know what I mean? Like, but like for you, that's a real thing that must have been absolutely terrifying.
What does the thought of hell come like now? What does it feel like?
It's like, oh, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe this is like the point one. But the new thought is like my parents' version of God was wrong, but there's still a different one. That's like my new thing. Like, am I going to suffer for eternity because I got the wrong parents teaching me this very particular version?
Is it ever
of
a positive thought? Maybe it's a God who's like, oh,
kind
we're
and
chill.
generous? Yeah, that does sound a little.
You know what's
nicer.
replaced my thought? Where sometimes I have like the thought of, because again, I never want to die. But there's
You
a degree
won't.
of like, thank you. There's a degree of, hell could be created on Earth. Or like, when I saw there's an episode of like Black Mirror where they put the consciousness like in a computer or whatever. Which again, this is all. What does that even mean? But like they sped up time within the thing, so like the person suffered 10,000 years in darkness. And I'm like, there's times I'm like, oh, there could be the possibility for like eternal pain in the physical world as we know it. And I don't know if that's comforting or if it's just like it's more just like. Oh, yeah, it is possible, religion or not.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting. Right.
So it's all still pretty fucking bleak.
Yeah.
What about
But if this was hell, I'd be like, okay, that's not that bad.
This isn't I mean, this podcast is
Like,
this is my hell. I'm suffering.
I think I'll call this like the gnashing of teeth with Zach Zimmerman.
Can you spell gnashing?
Yeah, I can.
Gnashing.
KN.
K.
Oh, is it? I thought that was a trick. Like there was a K in there.
Oh,
Like-
no.
Like
knitting.
Like not, or knitting.
It's not like knitting.
Isn't
Then
it a
it's just
G?
NAS.
It's like gnat.
H.
Like gnat is
GN,
your
right?
clue. Yeah.
What?
It's a G.
GN.
Silent G.
God, I thought
Really?
you were
Wow.
smarter than
Yeah.
me. And
You weren't in
I
the smart
just-
people classes.
We're gonna
You
do-
might have gone to
We'll do
Virginia
an
Tech.
IQ test.
Patreon, we're gonna do an SAT test.
Oh,
SATs.
God, no, that's so long.
That's a fun idea.
What Tova and I talked about once. I was like, it'll be fun, and then 3 questions, and we'll be like, oh my god, what the fuck? Okay, what about the? We haven't established that you're gay.
Am I?
Well, I don't know.
Yeah.
That'd be great if I could.
That
an
all-
audience member finds out that they're actually not gay.
What's wild is the identity shit all came crashing down after then.
Oh, okay.
Like it was like, oh, if the religion goes away, then like, oh, these hot guys at Princeton are an option, and then vegetarianism came through fast after that too.
What was the priority list of like telling your parents religion, gay, or
Vegetarian.
Yes, no.
I love it.
yes.
The third one is the one where they're like,
That's
no.
where they draw the
Well, we
line.
just
No.
assume he's gay now.
I do think gay was weirdly harder than atheist, or still like a little more difficult,
Yeah.
which is kind of insane because atheist means I'm going to hell.
What do you think they
forever.
care about more? Like, I understand it's for you. Do you think it's the same for them? Is
Wait,
the
say it again.
atheism more troubling for your parents or the being gay?
Being gay, I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
Which
they've
you're right is so
warmed up-
crazy in terms of.
Oh yeah, I'm like already going to hell.
But I
Shouldn't
guess
that
being
be the more
gay is
important
already going
thing?
to hell too, right?
True. Well, we all sin. You can still go to hell and sin.
Do
There
you
are gay
think your
people
parents?
in heaven.
Do you think your parents believe 100% in their hearts that you are going to hell and they are not, or do you think this is part of their worldview of the things you should do in life, and they hope maybe you're not going to hell? Because if someone really believes,
Oh yeah, they'd
that
be
you're
on my door
going to
every day.
hell.
Yes.
how can they do anything? If I thought my child was going to hell and they were gay, I would, if I truly believed it,
Yep.
for eternity,
Yep.
I'd be like, we have to lock you in a room so you can't act on being gay because I don't want you to go to hell
Yep.
for eternity.
Yep. That's interesting. They're not going far enough. I think they've.
Yeah.
I think
if you
they-
really believe
Yeah.
in it,
Yeah.
You should be knocking on everyone's door.
I mean, that's the same, but that's the same thing with all of religion in terms of like, well, then you should be giving up all your worldly goods if you
Right.
actually
Right.
believe in it.
But people are tired and lazy and
Yeah.
Yeah.
don't want, my dad doesn't want to come to New York to lock me up. He's like afraid of cities. So
It
I
would be
think-
very funny. That'd be your dad just trying to cockblock you just constantly.
there is a Bible verse my mom cites: raise them up in the way they should be, and when they're old, they won't depart from you. So I think they've like done their work and are like, okay, it's on you now. Because how do you? It has to
Well,
be.
they don't blame themselves. According to that passage, raise them up.
Oh, I know.
correctly.
Maybe they've never done anything wrong. Someone tweeted something that white evangelicals are people who don't have any questions, and I think that's like very damning. They know everything. They've never done anything wrong.
I see.
They don't have any questions about the universe. They have all their answers.
And they just say like you are bad. you are bad.
Yeah.
That's why you are.
Yeah, so what is your I mean, they're texting you still, but what's your relationship like now? Are you
We've
visiting?
learned-
Do you see each other? Like, are you what are those conversations like?
There were 4 years where I did not visit.
Wow.
And then I think the more that as they're aging, they're softening because I think anger and damnation take a lot of energy. So
Yeah.
they're like getting a little gentler. Maybe I'm being a little more gentler with them. Like, oh, maybe he needs religion because of this trauma of childhood. Like, let me be. Maybe these people didn't do that badly with raising me, even though they've fucked up, in my opinion. So we're learning boundaries, I think. Mm-hmm. We avoid. Sometimes it's fun to fight. Like fighting is like our love, but then sometimes it's like exhausting.
So they enjoy. Is it fun repartee or do they?
It can
go,
be like politics. Like yeah,
And that's another thing where I'm like, that's cool. Unless they think you're going to hell for eternity, then it's weird to be cute about it. If you really think it's just so hard. I just feel like if I was religious, it's more just like I'm like that part of one's brain or thought. I'm not saying I'm smarter, but like
Definitely
one part where there's one connection that like I'm like you don't seem to have it. That you can't be like, you understand you don't really believe in this because if you did, you'd be living a different kind of life.
I have to be because they don't even go to church anymore. They haven't been to a church in forever.
Like
They're not even doing
really-
the thing. That's sometimes I have to catch myself because I'll use their logic to be like, you're wrong. Like if God exists, then XYZ. Like I'll try to play within their language with like, but they're so
As if one
clearly
day
just
they'd be
reciting
like,
Fox
you know
News.
what? You're
Why did they
right.
stop
Take
going
down
to
the
church?
cross.
I think my dad's like asocial or has like social anxiety, and so he just for whatever reason. You don't have to go to church to go to heaven. So he got his salvation, raised his kids, and then got out.
Wow.
But they don't go to church, which is supposed to be. Those are the good things about religion, like
Yeah.
a community, singing together, eating together.
Have you ever gone to
sleeping with someone in the
you have.
bathroom?
Anytime I go to a church thing, I like whether it's someone's wedding or some reason I'm at a church.
Yeah.
And there's a ceremony. It blows my mind that people do this every week and then cite it for like community stuff. And I'm like, we are barely alive in this church. Like you look at everyone else and they're just like,
Oh,
no one wants to be there. No one, everyone truly is doing it because it's a thing to check off a list of being like, I'm not going to the fun ones. Like I'm not going to the progressive fun churches. I'm talking about like
You can say
old
black.
school, like but or like like city church. I'm not going to like I don't know.
Times Square
I don't know
church.
the new hip churches. I'm just saying
new
Do you want to
I'm-
go to Times Square Church one day? I've never been. There's a Times Square Church.
I would be, it's a horrible thing, but I'm like, I already have my chunk on liberal churches. So I'm like, I already have my
you don't
chunk.
wanna
I
learn?
don't need.
You don't need
I
material?
more.
You don't need more.
No, I
but
would
wouldn't
go
you just be interested to see?
if you'd go.
So when I invite you to my wedding, I'm gonna have to be like, you don't have any material yet on gay weddings. You need to come.
You're right.
I have to make it different enough.
Yeah.
I've been working on a new chunk about. I went to a wedding where the couple is in an open relationship, and so that's my new chunk.
That's fun.
I'm working on that.
This is the wedding I know of.
No.
Oh,
No,
different.
not that. I
You've
guess
been
it's
to multiple
because it's
open
not
weddings.
as it's funnier with this because it's a heterosexual couple.
Oh, got it.
Where like when it's a gay couple, like I just think there's
Duh.
more open relationships with men than
Yeah,
there are
yeah.
with men and women.
At the hetero wedding, are they like, does anyone object to this or want to get in on it?
That's what I was for. But yeah, it's
Sorry,
that degree.
you're probably already
but
wrote
they,
this.
it's that.
Yeah.
And then my girlfriend, she got the bouquet. She got to fuck the groom. It was very weird. Give a
Would you
laugh,
in-
you fucking asshole.
I did. I give
would
it-
you-
You did this.
you
You
had
went,
bit
I'll play it back.
eyes.
You went. You did a bummer like.
I did.
You had bit eyes. You had bit eyes.
I did.
You say a
I'm
traditional
recording
joke.
this on 4 different ways. You can't lie to me.
Okay, well,
Is your
we'll
camera
play the
recording?
ta-
I always get
Yes,
paranoia.
Yes.
Is that the one trained on you? Or him?
No, it's on him. Oh, look at that. I'm a good
so-
guy.
Would you and Tova ever open things up?
Let's ask Tova. No.
I do love asking straight couples that question because it is always the man turns to look at the
You know-
woman answering.
This didn't work on stage. I thought it was so interesting. Where I was like, something about Tova's never gonna be into an open relationship, and I thought it's like our relationship is like the town from Footloose, and people in open relationships are like, hey, you can dance, and she's like, no, you can't. There's something in. I think about like. I feel like people who are against open relationships and want monogamy see people in open relationships and they're like, get the fuck out of here. Stop telling so-and-so that this is possible. We don't want this.
Oh, yeah.
I think there's a degree of resentment with people in open relationships, especially from more often, again, we're speaking in broad generalities, but in heterosexual relationships with other heterosexual relationships that are open, there's a degree where some people are like, no.
There's way less cases.
We'd rather have people cheat in their 50s and destroy the entire family unit
I think even
than confront the reality of people now.
I think even the ire people have towards cheating is sort of like what if we have to condemn this because if I want to get to do it.
That's why I think it's so shocking when people go like, oh my God, Adam Levine cheated. First of all, they probably have an arrangement. But second of all, it's just like, it is
wild how mad Twitter gets about cheating. It's
hella. It's very footloose. It's very fire and brimstone condemnation.
It's so like you have to be pure.
Yeah,
pure.
Like the word adultery.
It's so you're like. Of course it happens. Of course, and of course, like it's shitty. It's usually like we don't know all the instances or we don't know possibly.
I always want to know about their family. I'm always like, wait a second, is your family pure? Is this like a reaction to your family, or do you not know about your family?
Crazy.
Someone tweeted about the Try Guy that he had to release this like statement as if he was like a senator, and it was like he's just a random YouTube personality who cheated on his wife, but he releases this statement. It's just like, I'm so sorry to everyone I've upset, because he has fans who are like, I named my kid after you and I'm going to kill myself. This was someone's tweet that I'm going to take, but it is very strange.
I think it's strange too if you've never even heard of the person beforehand and then you're wildly mad about them cheating. I don't understand. You didn't know who they were. Like, because like there's so many people on Twitter that didn't really know the Try Guy thing but like tweeted all for 2 full days about it, and you're like, why do you even like, you don't even know this person. What was he doing for you that you morally needed to like have him not cheat? Like you didn't know he existed.
I also think there's a degree. I think being an adult and having been in a couple relationships, there's a degree where I'm like,
that overlap too, right?
Yeah, that overlap.
Yeah.
You don't know what people's relationships are. Like, cheating many times cheating can be something because the relationship was a foul in other ways, was horrible in other ways. Like, there's this idea that like, I just think you don't. There's someone who saw, Tova and I post all these pictures on Instagram, and it's all nice and fun stuff. And someone said to me sincerely, like, you guys seem like you never fight. And I was like, oh, you're a child if you think that's true. If you think that we never fight, then you don't understand that human beings have challenges and struggles, and that's why sort of people break up and people go like, I don't understand.
I don't fight with my partner.
Who's your partner right now?
Doesn't exist.
Exactly.
That's why we don't fight.
Can you tell us about the speaking of relationships and dating, the date you went to Utah for? Is that correct?
Oh God, no.
I said at the beginning, is there anything we should talk about? Maybe. That was number one on my list.
I don't know if this happens in the straight world, but when my DMs are full of things sometimes, or when you put out little jokes,
I'm sure I have just as many gay men in my DMs as you do.
And so you meet people from all over, and there's digital levels to things, and so I went to Salt Lake City for a date, and then they flaked on me. But that happens. I booked a show too.
Oh, so
I made it like a
don't act like the show came first and it was convenient.
Listen though, at least
you found the guy first.
Fell in love.
Then found who's headlining in this area.
Asked if I could open for him, and then went out there. I seek out impossible love to validate the myth of my own unlovability. So I think I'm really creating my own flaws here.
Was this?
It's very self-aware.
Was this a real person? Like, was it? Like,
oh yeah.
Okay,
they're real.
They just flaked,
and we were like, yeah.
How intense was the flirting that you thought you could? Because listen, before I even knew who Tova was, because once I did, I never spoke to another woman again.
It's beautiful.
But like, you can talk with people online all day long, and then like it's not there. I'd have to be so fucking sure.
Oh yeah.
That like this person was.
That's why it became about the show more. I was like, I'm not gonna go out there just for you, but like, this could But then it ended up being more about the shows. Like, it was a great experience. I hadn't yet opened for someone, and
did they ghost or did they flake?
They were just like, "Oh, I'm really busy this weekend," or like I have like this
I'll
thing.
never be in Utah again.
I'll give you off air a different answer.
Oh.
Well,
But I've learned. I think when people will flirt online, and then when rubber meets the road, you're never going to meet up or whatever. Some people are. It's a lot of talk in the DMs. I think.
Sure.
When you don't live in the same city.
Yeah, I get that.
Like, I got like a guy in London I sexted with, but I'll probably never meet in person. I got a guy in Paris I'll probably text till I die, and we'll never meet up.
How intense are the texts? Are you sending pics?
You send disappearing pics in the Instagram DM.
But you could screenshot this. Everyone, am I wrong? Everyone's screenshotting it the moment they click on it.
But Instagram tells you when you're screenshotting. I learned that.
Wait, do they really?
Yeah.
Not all. No.
Yeah.
Are you sure?
Yeah. This is starting to feel like the crystal.
We're like,
Are you sure?
listen, all my DMs are, do you want to grow your following by 25,000 people? That is the only DMs I get.
Mine are like,
Could you say yes because we could use some more followers for this goddamn podcast?
Well,
that Crystalia. Do you know this video we're talking about?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, for those who don't know it,
no, but I didn't know that I assumed that, yeah, you could, if you get a thing, you could just
I didn't know that it automatically.
It'll tell you.
I've more like the reason I go like, wait, that's true is because like, I tagged Tom Segura in something, and then he said like he wrote back like haha, and I screenshot it because I'm like I'm gonna send it to Tova, be like he laughed at my joke.
Oh, you can screenshot the text, but if someone sends an image,
really,
and the image pops up and it's a disappearing image, if you screenshot
have you sent something and seen people screenshot it?
The inverse. This London guy we were sexting, and he was sending me some real hot things, and I screenshot. He's like, "Hey, would you do me a favor and not screenshot that?" And I was like, "Oh, I'm so sorry, I didn't realize."
Oh my god, were you humiliated?
No, it was just like a.
And I was like, a friendly reminder.
I mean, it's hot to be like
Friendly reminder. Can you delete that picture of my
if
asshole?
someone screenshot, yes.
Pro
oh my
tip.
god.
Wait,
People know their angles now. Sorry.
Let me tell you something. I've never sent a dick pic, and
really?
let me tell you,
You just
sending an
smell the
asshole pic.
panties.
Get the fuck out of here.
Get the
Sending an
fuck
asshole
outta
picture.
here.
Do you like an asshole pic?
No, I have an old bit about unsolicited butthole videos. I just don't find it sexy, like a whole opening and closing. But now, like a good, I'm an old fashioned.
About all of sex. I mean, it's all just holes opening and closing.
Yeah.
But I enjoy a good butt pic now. Like the best is like a real down low angle, like when the camera's down here and you're seeing just like butt and then back and then face. It's a very good angle for everyone involved.
I can't even imagine.
I'll send you some.
How many you said you've taken one dick pic in your life?
Mm-hmm. I sent it to my wife.
Can we put it on the Patreon?
Yeah.
You sent it to your wife early in the relationship, or like, was it a dick pic, or was it knowing you? It was probably like, do you think this is something?
What?
Are you a hypochondriac?
No. No, it was early. It was because remember we got together and then I was doing a show for like a while out in the Midwest. So
Shakespeare.
Yeah. So
did you do it in your crown? Did you put?
Yeah, I did it in my crown.
The King. There's a ludicrous song that I was really obsessed with in 8th grade, and it opens with some girl's like, "The king's penis is clean, your highness," and he goes, "Thank you, king." Shit. And in 8th grade, it was like that was porn.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like just a woman being like, "The royal penis is clean, your highness." It was like an opening little skit for a ludicrous song, and I think it was talking about what's that Eddie Murphy movie about the prince or king from Africa coming to America?
Oh, yeah, coming to America.
Coming to America. Yeah. I think it's from that.
What's that movie about the big boat called the Titanic? What's the name of the movie?
I think he was like in a jacuzzi and like a woman pops out. I was like, "The royal penis is clean, your highness."
Oh God.
And as a kid, you're just like, "Oh, I'd do anything for someone to touch my penis."
I try not to play the dick pic game though, but I think gay artists, they're all out there and they're floating around plenty. But I'm not trying to. I'd rather lead with my personality.
Sure. Well, that's why that guy.
I feel like I feel like because you guys are comedians, I feel like that just feels like it would just be in this day and age, like I would just be very nervous about getting out there, you know.
I believe we did a sketch. We didn't do it. I wanted to be nude. I like nudity in art. I find it. I find something.
You're a very handsome man.
But not even like I'm like, oh, if you're gonna portray like a couple, a scene where they're in the room at night, I'm like, well, the truth of that scene involves a lot of nudity.
Yep.
You know, and like very non-sexualized nudity. So like I like.
Oh, that's fine.
But I do have a terrifying of like, I'm I would say grower, not a shower, but I'm fine. But flaccid, I'm not like excited for people to see my flaccid.
Right.
I'm not like, wait till
But you
people
really
get
wanted to do it in L.A. You really wanted to be naked for it, and
if the reaction wasn't such a
filmed
deep
on thing with people there, a photographer, you wanted that. And
I
you
think the
fought
hardest
for
thing
it.
that's
You
going to
fought
be
really
is
hard
like
for it.
one day I'll be naked on like film some way or another, and I think the thing I'll have to fight is that like desire to be like fluffing myself up before the scene, like to just be like, no, I wouldn't be fluffing
I feel
myself
like
up.
gay
to
men
imagine
do that all the time.
You're like fully erect and like that. No, sir, you can't. You're like, no. This is
pushing
just,
it down.
this is
Flaccid.
This is how it is.
That's so funny.
It's how I was
That's
born. It's how
funny-
I was born.
In this scene, you're just taking a shower.
There's no reason.
Don't you wear a privacy pouch or something?
Yeah.
It all gets covered.
We're gonna do an AMP episode with an intimacy coordinator soon.
Oh, wow.
okay, good.
But
I feel like
I,
you're going to learn a lot.
We've been learning.
Yeah. Well, we have some sketches that I want to do.
Yeah.
That might be. I'm gonna have to bring her in to ask you. Are you comfortable with this?
Yeah.
I'm one of those guys where if it's like something with that, I'm like, if someone says to me during a sketch, like, is it okay if I will? I'm like, whatever.
Yeah.
That's me.
Yes.
Gotcha.
But you're cool.
But I'm chill.
cool,
I'm
man.
Not,
I'm not like a
We know
weirdo.
That's me.
I'm
I'm cool.
I'm
Let
just
me
what you
suck your
call
dick,
like
man.
a real actor. So no. So we didn't play the theme music, Russell.
Yeah, we did.
The downside.
Yes, we did. Remember, you called him
Yeah,
out
I
for
know.
tweeting about not
And
wanting to be
the
here.
tweet is better than what it's more than what you quoted.
Sorry for not giving your tweet the due.
I just think it did something interesting.
Well, let's go on to our next segment.
This has got to stop.
This has got to stop.
Oh crap!
You can think. I'll
You got one?
yeah, I'll say one. I have to vague it up.
Okay.
I have to vague it up. Don't worry if you don't have one. I know that's what that reaction was. You're like,
There was this guy Jack Zimmerman, and I
was at a thing where people were giving speeches.
Okay.
a woman was in white.
Shut the fuck up. I heard a speech where they're basically like, we all COVID was tough on everybody, but there was a good side to it, and it was because these two people were brought together and had time to
Were they in the
we
front
got to meet
lines?
this. No, it was just something. It was like, well, COVID allowed me and this person to get to know each other better. And it was like this idea where I'm like, okay, just leave the COVID part out. Because what you're saying is, listen, I know 1 million people died or so, but it really
they said the name
helped.
of your specific friend.
two
They're like,
found love.
Well, it was good that this specific friend of yours died of COVID because it allowed us to fall in love.
And I just think I think I've heard variations of this degree of where like you have to like be like, we all know this has been a wild year, but one positive,
God.
and it's like you don't have to.
I feel like this is for not even just this speech, for concerts, for stand-up shows, for people still saying that preface before whatever they're gonna do. I'm like, what are you doing? Stop! Like that we've all been cooped up inside. You're like, not for like over a year now. Stop saying that. Stop saying like
I did a podcast recently where the host was like, so how's it been like getting back to like social situations? So you find that you're like a little weird, and I'm like, what the fuck?
We're gonna be doing this for the next 10 years. You're gonna be meeting people for the next 10 years that are still saying like, I just started blah 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 blah, and you're like, I
Next year, somebody be like, first comedy show back. Let's see how. And you're like, okay, you're not a comedian.
Yeah.
Do you ever this got to stop?
On my way here was thinking it's something about the DMs. I feel like people in my DMs need to stop.
What do they do? Are they?
I
is
don't
it
know.
over?
People are very weird.
Oh, okay.
You just had
There's
a really viral
parasocial thing.
You had a
Oh,
really
yeah,
viral
yeah.
real, and so you've got a lot of DMs from that, I assume.
Yeah.
But
which are all like,
Okay, I'll go back. So my DM complaint, I think, for me is like I get some people who write me long passages of things, and it gets to a point where I was polite for a long time, but now I just like it sometimes, and then now I get to a point where I don't like it, and I feel this anxiety. I'm like, they're sending me novels, and I'm not even reading it at this point, and I'm like, I don't know what to say to this person, but I don't have time to like be reading this thing, so I feel guilt.
I feel that too.
And it's very weird because you want fans. And that's the goal.
People are cool and fascinating, and I normally would be interested in it, but then it's like the 1% is unwell, and you can't give the wrong person too much love, or suddenly for the next decade, 2 decades, I'm going to be like fake laughing along with your joke. But the hard thing is maybe I'll meet a lover or like a best friend in there, but just because of the dynamic, it's not going to happen in the DMs.
I think you got to let go of this idea that you're going to find anything out of this DMs, but another like on a reel.
Oh, I did.
You really romantic. You have this hope that you'll
meet someone in a DM. I did. Recently, I posted like, would anyone like to go on a date? And an Instagram poll, yes or no. And then I looked through all the yeses, and it was great.
Yeah.
I set up some dates, clarified some relationships, went on some bad dates. Went on a 3-way that I wasn't one. Being a 0. I thought I was going to a 3-way, and it wasn't.
Did they have sex, and you? What happened?
We just had dinner and drinks, and I asked what's the vibe was, and they were like, we're going to bed. And I was like, well, you said yes on the date poll. I thought you were inviting me over for a date. Yeah.
Oh.
I'm still figuring them. I think we're just friends, but I'd like to kiss them because they're pretty.
Oh, that is very
I got
strange.
100% say that if I put that on my Instagram, every person that would click yes would be someone I would not want to go on a date with. 100%.
Fair enough. It's
maybe one in there. That would be a surprise.
And you
like
did
match.
put it. You put it on your close friends. Did Tova see that? You did
No,
do
she's
this
not
recently.
And Russell, what's your this has got to stop?
I said I didn't have one.
That has to stop.
You
need to come with the stop.
This has got to stop. That we don't do these on these days. And you need to tell me when I need to be prepared. You're calling me about a different segment, and
we're pitching. I think Russell, we're gonna do like a Russell's Corner type thing. It has to be a different name. It's got to be a different name because that's from Anthony Jeselnik's podcast. But I think like a Russell doing like
Russell rips one
a little
off.
segment, a new segment, or some kind of question or some kind of anything. It could be an email you got. It could be
a poem.
Something personal about your wife. It could be anything.
Okay, great.
Or that the perfect example. We wanted to do this one. We'll do it someday. Of like, if someone, regardless of all the things that they may have done, if you could uncancel them and they could be back, like who would you?
Jared from Subway.
Who would you bring back?
Sure, it could be Jared from Subway.
He did a lot of good in his day.
If all those kids had to be so that Jared could, it was worth it.
So we're gonna have that next time. I'm very excited to see what you've cooked up, Russell. And let's go on to our final segment.
You better count your blessings.
You better count your blessing. Do you got a blessing for us, Russell?
I do. I got to see 2 old friends this weekend. They came to visit, and I had so much fun with them. You know, sometimes you get nervous when someone you've been friends with for a long time. It can sometimes be like, are we gonna? And I've always had fun with them, but you know what I mean. Like, you see them in like brief stints, and it was a longer extended period, and I had just so much fun and so many good conversations with them, and so shout out to Brennan and Jordan.
Aww.
2 good brothers.
When did you? How far back are we talking?
Middle school.
Yeah,
middle school. Yeah,
it's always. I see my old middle school friend Kevin, and we always go through like all the girls we had crushes on. We kind of go through what are they doing now.
Yeah,
and then like that list gets like small. Like
Heroin,
as you get older, it's like
cocaine.
they're married, dead. And then like that conversation becomes shorter and shorter the older we get. Because who gives a fuck?
Yeah.
And then like sometimes when we're really vibing, we get into that where you start talking.
Yeah.
And then other times it's just like, We're out. We're done. Let's old stories about our old English teacher in 5th grade, I guess.
Yeah,
But
I think it was a good mix of like, you there's some nostalgia stuff that you like kind of like do, or like, fun gossipy updates about people. But then it was a good amount of like
new experiences,
kind of like hearing what they're doing, and they were they hadn't been in the city in a long time, so it was exciting to like go out in the city with them and have fun. Went to a concert. So
Did you tell them to listen to the podcast?
They do listen. Which part was I'm shouting.
They're
out
the
to.
2 viewers.
They do. There was one time I mentioned a story on here that I didn't think they would hear, and they texted me the next day being like, and I was like, oh, okay. Like, so, so I'm shouting them out because I know that they listen sometimes. And now they probably won't listen to this. I mean, it's buried in a deep episode, but we'll see.
My blessing, it's specific, but first general, my girlfriend, Tova.
May her memory be a blessing.
Those panties, it was the laundry person. I'm gonna talk to them tomorrow. I'm gonna say, you guys really fucked up my Friday night.
Wait, they should start charging a fee. Maybe they do this when you don't tip.
Oh,
I tip very well, actually. I tip the laundry person very well, I will say.
Yeah.
No one else, but also Tova, she was a bridesmaid at this wedding, and she looked gorgeous.
Oh,
she looked gorgeous.
Okay.
And she, I helped apply the self tanner thing to her back with a special glove.
Oh.
I think I did a nice job evening
Yeah.
out the shoulders.
Yeah.
But she looked fantastic. And I know that
she's gonna meet someone special one day.
Sounds like bridesmaid stuff sounds very stressful. You all get the same kind of dress, and you go to the tailor and all these things.
Yeah.
And she just looked very beautiful. I was very proud to be in the audience waving to her. And,
You were waving during the ceremony.
Yeah, I took all the
If
focus
anyone
away.
objects,
why do you think this is the blessing? I have a lot to apologize for. I really fucked up.
Tova's also my blessing. I should shout out Tova as well.
I don't know if you should be shouting out her looks. That feels a
Oh
little...
no, I wasn't shouting at her. I'm saying, she's my manager now, which is
oh
very
wait,
exciting.
that was the thing.
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Congrats.
Very
That's
exciting.
Yeah,
great.
she signs everyone who does the pod.
That's so good.
Can you imagine? You want to get him with Tova? You got to be on the pod. Do you have a blessing for us?
My blessing. My blessing is Tova's tits. I think those.
They're
are-
rocking. They're rocking.
I was gonna say
No.
the rain
The
You like the
rain?
rain?
because I hate the rain, but
Oh.
I do think the world. It's I'm grateful for it because it does help. Whatever. I don't know the ecosystem.
I don't.
I'm
did we
trying
need
to
it?
trick
Did we need
myself.
it here in New York? I feel like there's probably someone.
You're
that's,
right. That we
like,
don't need
who's
it.
dying of thirst that probably needs it.
But yours inspired me better to. I had a group trip with some friends this weekend, and it was
okay.
like I've known them 16 years, and it just
Oh,
felt
that's
like
nice.
good. It was
Yeah.
very restorative just to be with people who get you,
Yeah.
and like
Yeah.
have new experiences, old memories, fight a little,
Yeah.
like a friend, like family, like
Oh yeah. We just went on a trip together.
yeah.
Yeah.
We did.
There was some fighting.
There was some fighting.
That means
some
your
tension.
family.
There was a lot
That's
of things.
beautiful.
We can talk about in the next episode. We did have stuff.
Yeah.
There was a disastrous voiceover audition that I really
Well, we
fucked
don't
up.
have to get into that.
on whose half?
It's
It was,
Who bombed?
a long story.
Did you book?
and then I thought Russell was mad at me. I still think you're mad at me.
I'm not mad at you. You were in the wrong, and I told you were in the wrong. And
I was not in the wrong. I was put into an
listen,
impossible
we
you're
can't
in the
get
wrong.
into it
situation.
right now. We can't get into
I was
it
put
right
into
now.
an impossible situation.
Okay, I'm just saying. I just wanted to,
Are you mad at me?
It wasn't even about me. I was, but I'm not mad at you.
Tova's been working here. She has an office.
She's in the
but
building?
But she just sometimes works here. Now that we're moved in together, and I have a thing. And I told Russ I felt the same way. I think
can
like
say penis.
when she's here and she's working, I feel like she's ignoring me, and she's mad at me. And it was the
Yeah,
same
you
feeling
are
I
like-
had with like. Where Russell, we'd be at this Airbnb and you'd be on your laptop and you
I was
literally
working.
You wouldn't talk to me for hours at a time.
I
was-
empathize with this.
I was literally working at both. I was doing some self tapes, and I was also working. So then you kept being like, you were like, I was very sweet. You were like, I feel like I need a friend, and I'm like, we're all friends. We're literally just working. Like, so I didn't know that you were that. Like, I didn't know you had that insecurity.
We experience no, it
that's
is.
not-
It's
that's not-
anxious.
that's
We
not-
experience
okay, I wanna-
silence as something's wrong.
I didn't know that you needed more from me. I'll say it that way. It's a little more positive, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Aw, I didn't know you needed.
I
more
didn't
from
know.
me.
Yeah.
No, I didn't know. This is you. I'm you.
Okay.
I didn't know that I should be giving more.
Oh, okay.
That's what I'd like to
Okay.
know. All right. So this episode is coming out October 18th. Is there anything you want to plug?
What day of the week is that?
It's a Tuesday.
Next Tuesday? No, week after.
Yeah. For the listeners, it's today.
For the listeners, well, what should I say? Oh, my book. I wrote a book. You can pre-order it now. Is it hot in here, or am I suffering for all eternity for the sins I committed on earth? And
Say it one more time, a little bit
sorry.
more for the search.
For the
so they can
search.
search it.
It's my name's Zach Zimmerman, and the book's called "Is It Hot in Here?" or "Am
You didn't
I
have to say your
suffering?"
name. It's going to be in the title. Like,
let him just
say
say
the
the
gnashing
whole
of
thing.
teeth with Zach Zimmerman. Is it hot in here? Just Google Zach Zimmerman book. Or
it's also
is
going to
it
be
hot
in the
here
link of these show
book.com.
notes. We're going to do our due diligence, pre-order it.
Yes.
If you liked what you heard here and you want to just see it regurgitated on pages, pay money for it.
That's true.
I
Also,
think it's probably fun.
TikTok,
I said to read it.
Instagram. I'm rereading it now because it got delayed because of some design issues, so I'm having to reproof it.
What were the design issues?
The font was too big. It was so weird. It arrived and the font was gigantic. I have many
comically,
comically. I have thousands of copies of it with big font to give away now.
wait, like it was a printing error.
It was yes. I don't know who to point the finger quite at. It looked fine on the page on the screen, but once we had one in our hands, like the book itself was big, like 6x9, and the font was big, so it just felt very big and a lot of white
But do you have to
space.
pay for all this?
No, they're eating it. The publisher didn't want to put it forward that way.
Is it something you could sell as merch and make the money?
We're hoping it's has a first edition vibe. But I'm going to give them to a gay senior center, some of them. Because it's easy but I'm having to reread the book, and it's good. I need to sell my book better.
Good.
It's
I'm
great.
excited.
I'm rereading it, and all I notice are flaws.
Sure.
This could be so much better, but I'm very proud of it, and I think.
Do you think your
people are gonna
parents will
enjoy
read it?
I sent a copy to my mom because there's some stuff that I wanted to get in front of, and she's working her way through it. And surprisingly, I talk about finding their sex pamphlets as a kid, and she's surprisingly fine with that. She's like, I'm proud of our sex life. I'm like, okay.
Sorry, real quick. Can you just tell us what's the sex pamphlet?
There were these paycheck. They looked like paychecks. They were little pamphlets I found up to spice up their sex life. So there were a couple tens of 20s of them, how to shave your pussy, how to do this with
You
a
and Topher
partner.
don't have those?
No, we need to
got
get them,
How-
especially
how
that
to
shaved pussy.
dispose
Oh man,
Baby, I got you something.
this is one of those episodes. I'm like, you can skip this one. It wasn't a good episode, baby. We didn't talk
But
about
Zach
anything.
was on it. I love Zach.
What was it all self grooming? Or was it also here's how you do?
That's the only one I
cowgirl?
looked at. I assume the others were other stuff. The main one
How
I saw
detailed
was the
it?
pussy.
Was arrows like?
Oh, yeah. I read a lot about the pussy. But she was fine with that.
Yeah.
But I'm a little worried. My dad doesn't like the spotlight as much as she does.
Yes.
And so I was like, hey, heads up. I don't name you. Your face isn't in it. But I do talk about his religious experience and kind of our trauma and family stuff. So I don't think he'll read it.
That'd be funny if God came back and that's what God told him. Like, here's how you shave the pussy, up and down. Do you have anything to plug? This coming up October 18th.
Function at New York Comedy Fest,
Congrats.
Sunday, November 13th, Asylum NYC. Right? Yeah.
Can I show you what you did with the mic just now? Can I just record
Sorry.
it for you? No.
That's love.
So,
Sorry, I was
November
Okay.
18th, and
Uncle
we're
Function,
gonna.
Uncle Function, New York Comedy Fest, Sunday, November 13th at Asylum NYC. And the same day, earlier in the night, you can catch us at doing
Sesh Comedy
Yes.
Club live
Woo!
podcast recording 6 to 7:30. Dalia said no, but we're gonna get a big guest. Don't you worry. And for me, here we go. I'm gonna be at Edmonton, Canada. I don't know if
Wow.
anyone there listens, but I'm gonna be there fucking Thursday,
Fucking.
Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Edmonton. And then I'm going to be in Comedy Arena, which is in McKinney, Texas. It's near Dallas, October 28th and 29th, and then October 30th. And November 6th, it's The Silver Lining at Sesh Comedy Club. We've sold out the last 2 shows. They're $10 tickets. Link is in the bio. Again, that's October 30th and November 6th. Sesh Comedy Club, you get to see me kind of do an hour with 2 guests in between. We'll have you on someday.
It's a great show. I was on your first one.
You're on my first one.
It's an honor.
It was it's a great show. Someone canceled on me last minute yesterday,
Text
and
me.
I took it really personally. Tova saw me have a very special kind of.
Can you tell
meltdown.
me after who was?
Yeah, it's not going to be particularly
Exciting.
thrilling.
Okay.
But I'll tell you. I'm telling everybody. No, it's fine.
You need a downside behind the scenes.
Yeah.
The downside untucked, where it's like extra.
And just remember that if you ever hear God's voice, something's wrong with you. Because even if God had a voice, why the fuck would he talk to human beings?
In English.
Gianmarco.
This is the downside.
Shut the fuck up.
Downside.